Well, hello there. Welcome to episode 127 of Countdown to Restoration with me, your host, Danny Thompson, iPhone host extraordinaire. That's right. You just probably can't wait to see me every day as we count down the dark days of the man we like to call the thief in chief. That's right, the thief in chief. Yes. All right, that's good. Have a good day. Glad you could drop by, even though we pay you a fortune. You should drop by. Anyway, here we go as we have what Ed Sullivan would have called a really big show. He really didn't say shoe. It was close. Shoe. But anyway, if you want to watch our past videos, you can watch on YouTube channel Danny Thompson, on Rumble channel DANWT. I don't know if it matters or not if you put the capital on the D and the T and all of that, but if you can't find it, try that. As we find this, yes, Dr. Richard and Dr. Rachel, again, side by side. I tell you, they'd make a good looking couple if they weren't the same person. And they still wouldn't be good looking, but I'm trying to be kind. It's a Wednesday to be kind day, I guess. I don't know. Hope you enjoyed Taco Tuesday. I know we did here. But anyway, we have a song today that is really weird because Dr. Rachel can do this with Dr. Richard at the same time. And you'll see, it's a great song for them. The couple that is really a single. How else do you say it?
Sometimes it's hard to be alive, 'cause after all, he's just a man.
That's right. One of the few people in the world that can stand by her man by just standing there. It just doesn't have to have anybody else there or go anywhere just because she's him. You're not getting it. It's funny. Come on, people. I keep taking them off. I'm kind of in a hurry. Much to do today. We do have some news that Dr. Rachel, I'm not sure. How does Richard feel about any of this? I don't know. But Dr. Rachel doesn't like it. Michigan board rules petition to put LGBTQ anti-hate law on ballot. 76,000 names short. The Michigan Elections Board ruled against certifying a petition to add an LGBTQ anti-hate law to the ballot after determining the petition was short 76,000 valid voter signatures. So, how did they miss that? Well, let's see what they do. They always think they have the right amount of number, and plus they do extra, but 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans ruled in a 4-0 vote to reject the petition. The vote came after a second review by the Elections Bureau that estimated fair and equal Michigan only turned in roughly 263,000 legitimate signatures. The group had spent $2.9 million to gather more than 468,000 signatures and said it would appeal the determination in court, of course. Spokesman, why wouldn't it be spokesperson for an LGBTQ group? How could it be spokesman? That's not right. Spokesman Josh Hovey said the organization felt many of the signatures had been improperly thrown out. Let's see, if you're not a licensed or legal voter in the state of Michigan, your vote doesn't count. So, ain't no telling what was going on there. Fair and Equal Michigan provided numerous examples to the board detailing how a significant number of our signatures were improperly thrown out, but to no avail. 2 Dems, 2 Repubs. Pretty even. Even secular Democrats of America would have to agree that you can't get much more even than a 4-0, 2 Dems, 2 Repubs agreeing vote, can you? You can find out what they think, probably not on that specific issue, but what they think about ruining the country and how they think we're godless and how they would like us to be godless because they think, as it says right here, that we are a secular democracy. And you will notice in the Constitution or in our founding, nor in our founding documents, does it ever make any such claim. In fact, the Constitution never calls us a democracy. We are a republic. That's right. Ben Franklin did not say a democracy if you can keep it. He said a republic if you can keep it. So secular Democrats of America don't even, hey, they get this today, don't they? That's right. Where are you, big guy? Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you, sir?
That's right. They don't even know what they're talking about. We don't have a secular democracy, but they want us to. You can find out about them, seculardems.org. And again, they should sponsor us. We advertise them more than anybody else in the world. We're safe for a little while, 7-week House recess, but they think it's unlikely to last. Just too much money to spend. So they may have to come back. But the January 6th hearing is still proceeding. It's such a bipartisan event. 2 Republicans that act like Democrats and hated Trump, and then the rest all Democrats. How could that not fail to give us a true bearing? And since most of us already know what happened, Danny? A bunch of over-enthusiastic, many of them just plain nuts people stormed the Capitol just trying to get their voices heard. They weren't trying to kill people. They were trying to get in to get the Senate to listen to them. Again, I am not for that action. I think that was stupid. But it's not this pre-planned. First of all, if January 6th attack on the Capitol was really pre-planned out, and that's the best they could do, with mental issues QAnon shaman leading the way, then I would think our democracy's probably pretty safe, don't you? Because these guys couldn't take over a small daycare. Really, come on. And probably many of them have been taking advantage of Washington, D.C.'s lax marijuana laws. Scientists claim that more and more schizophrenia cases are linked to marijuana. Wow. Huh. Oh, I grew up smoking marijuana. It doesn't do that. No, the marijuana today is not like back in my day. Not that I know. The next joint I smoke will be the first one. I have been a drug-free citizen all of my life because I believe that commercial. Why do you think they call it dope? That's right. And plus, I don't know. I guess my parents put a fear of it into me. I don't know. But I don't do drugs. I don't want drugs. But this is not good. And you know, I knew this before they did because I had been in downtown Denver not too long after the legalizing pot laws had taken effect. And you could tell, because these were not your normal homeless, just these by and large young people just living to toke. You know, do they even say that anymore? I don't know. They were all one toke over the line, though. I know I missed another song. And you could tell they had mental problems. Man, telling you, this is not good, and everybody wants to legalize it. We're going to have a country of crazy people. I mean, not just they have crazy ideas, but I mean, they have, I shouldn't say crazy, real mental problems. Seattle mayor is recovering from her mental problems, proposes rebuilding depleted police force after violent weekend. Yeah, just something about that old police force that helps keep down crime and violence. Just glad people see the light. After they caused it, everybody should vote her out, sue her, whatever. Now this is strange. Not that it's surprising, but I don't understand this, and this is just called we want our way in this so we can keep winning elections. Department of Justice indicates it might sue states returning to pre-pandemic voting regulations, not establishing new voting rules, but just going back to the way that it was before all the weird pandemic rules came about. They might sue you just for going back to where you were. How can that be? President Biden's Justice Department warned states on Wednesday, that's today, that they could face legal action in rolling back COVID-era voting procedures. Now that's just a takeover of the federal government where they do not belong. And many of the COVID-era voting procedures were not passed legally. They were just instituted by governors in many states who had no right to do so, and even worse, by just local election officials. The department's enforcement policy does not consider a jurisdiction's readoption of prior voting laws or procedures to be presumptively lawful. Instead, the department will review a jurisdiction's changes in voting laws or procedures for compliance with all federal laws regarding elections as the facts and circumstances warrant, reads a document released by Department of Justice. It proceeds to outline a long list of statutory protections on voting rights, including those surrounding mail-in voting. Now, there are no rights to mail-in voting. Mail-in voting, as it used to be, was just basically if you weren't going to be here to vote because we had one day to vote. I remember those days. We should go back to them. The new guidance comes as Arizona audits its 2020 election results and as Congress weighs legislation on the issue, because Dems already know they can't win. They can't win nationally if their new voting tricks they came up with during the pandemic are rolled back. I've seen the articles. I just haven't done it because a lot of them, the headline uses a not nice word. In a press release, DOJ said the guidance document addresses efforts by some states to permanently adopt their COVID-19 pandemic voting modifications and by other states to bar continued use of those practices or to impose additional restrictions on voting by mail or early voting. There is nothing in the Constitution on early voting or voting by mail. They didn't even have early voting or voting by mail when the Constitution was written. And when the last amendments were placed in the Constitution, they did not have early voting. They might have had absentee balloting by then. In addition, this guidance document discusses federal statutes the department enforces related to voting by mail, absentee voting, and voting in person. Attorney General Merrick Garland, should go down as one of the worst attorney generals ever, also warned that DOJ wouldn't hesitate to act if they saw states violating voting rights. Well, of course, I think they've already made that plain. The right of all eligible citizens to vote is the central pillar of our democracy. Actually, the checks and balances system that is largely ignored any longer, the executive, the judicial, and the legislative. I'm telling you, I'm getting Joe Biden's disease. I've got to stop it. Actually, I usually say executive, legislative, and judicial. I went out of order and forgot it. You ever do that? Yeah. Try counting up to 10 starting at 4. You might have to do the 1, 2, 3 first. Who knows? But also the cornerstone of our democracy, again, which we do not have, is that the states have rights and overall have rights over voting. We do not have a democracy. We are not a one vote, one person, your vote counts country. We are a vote for someone and then they vote for you in many, many ways. We are a representative republic. Constitutionally, we are a republic. And all of this reporting and all of these people using the word democracy all the time are giving a false impression. We are not even a majority rule country because we are not a true democracy. If we were a majority rule country, life would be a whole lot different, not all of it good. Anyway, and the Justice Department will use all of the authorities at its disposal to zealously guard that right, she said. The guidances issued today describe certain federal laws that help ensure free, fair, and secure elections. Where violations of such laws occur, the Justice Department will not hesitate to act. Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark of the Civil Rights Division added, whether through litigation or the issuance of official guidance, we are using every tool in our arsenal to ensure that all eligible citizens can exercise their right to vote free from intimidation and have their ballots counted. And that's by Sam Dorman, that report. So, yay, that's fun. What do you think, John? Johnny's thoughts never vary, always the same. Just caught up with that horrible disease he can't get rid of, but I think he likes it. All right, we have some audio as the group were on Air Force One today. And so as usual, not always, but usually, that means the history-making lesbian Press Deputy Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. And that's what they call her, not me. Only got her job because she would be history making, because she has to be one of the worst deputy press secretaries of all time. But only my opinion. More questions en masse. The press gaggle, as they call it, on Air Force One cut short because they were so late they had to land.
And that people in these red zones now will listen to this new mask guidance if they've shrugged off the vaccination message from the White House, if they've shrugged off mask guidance before. Why are you confident now?
Sure, let me first say that the CDC is a body that is highly respected. It is a body that people look towards. And you're right, you know, we are going to make sure that we go community by community. I'm sure the CDC is going to have a communication, kind of apparatus of communication with local governments on how to best do this. But this needed to happen, right? They are following the science. We have said this all along. The science is the North Star. We have to listen to public health experts. And right now, again, we're trying to make sure that we're saving lives. But again, we need to make sure that people who are not vaccinated get vaccinated.
So, the CDC is highly respected. I bet you didn't know that. I bet they didn't know that. They're not respected by the White House, I can tell you that. All right, one more.
Are you concerned that imposing a mask mandate could exacerbate divisions in the United States that have already been so present in terms of vaccination rates?
Well, let me just, like I said, there right now we have many options that we're looking under consideration. But let me just step back because I want to take this opportunity with the CDC mask guidance that was given. Again, not a mandate, as you know, but a guidance. Yesterday the CDC did exactly what it's supposed to do, and I'm sure you all saw tracking what the public health expert have said as much. The message is simple. If you are in an area where Delta is surging, you should mask up indoors. The CDC has to adapt to the virus, and unfortunately, because not enough Americans have stepped up to get vaccinated, they had to provide new guidance to help save lives, especially for those immunocompromised and children who, especially those children who are 11 and under, who do not have, are not able to get vaccinated at this time. So this is critical. Again, we want to make sure we're saving lives. The CDC guidance was done nonpartisan. It was done as they are looking through guidance and to really meet the moment. We're dealing with a virus, as you all know, that's unprecedented. There is no playbook for this virus. And again, we need to make sure that we're saving lives.
Yes, after all the babbling on, we do get to the truth of it. Nobody knows really what they're doing because nobody knows how to deal with this virus. I don't know. I was just telling my wife that yesterday. Why don't they just come out and say that? We're doing the best we can. See, they can't because they came out as experts. And right now they are scared to death that this economy is going to shut down. I mean, they're worried enough over mask mandates. They would actually rather force vaccinations, as we have been told all day that they are planning on mandating that all federal employees either get vaccinated or tested daily, which was in their purview to do, as I'm sure Karine Jean-Pierre would say. Jean-Pierre, excuse me. But nobody knows. I mean, this thing just is pretty tough. Well, why not just admit that? I don't know why this is so hard for everybody to figure out. But Pfizer is figuring out some things. Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine efficacy drops to 84% after 6 months, preprint study suggests. So, if you got the Pfizer vaccine just 6 months ago, you are less and less protected. Does it keep dropping? Well, we don't know. What we do know this is because, and aren't we having a hard time with that? Little tourist bus, I guess, or trolley. U.S. warns against travel to Israel, Portugal, and Spain as Delta fuels outbreaks. So, if you're going there, be on the lookout for Delta. So it's just growing and growing. But New York City is now going to pay people $100 to get COVID-19 vaccine. See, there's always an answer, and usually it has to do with money. So I told you, Biden and group are planning on doing that too, wanting to, as we move back over here, wanting to figure out a way to pay us who haven't been vaccinated to get vaccinated. They just don't know how to do it without having to pay everybody else. CDC, Dr. Rachel Walensky, the coronavirus could be just a few mutations away from evading vaccines. Well, it sounds like it's closer than that since you can get it now, the Delta, with the vaccine and carry it. You just won't get as sick. That doesn't sound too promising. The coronavirus is just a few mutations potentially away from evading current COVID-19 vaccines. Coronavirus cases have been surging in the U.S., fueled by the highly transmissible Delta variant. The more transmission, the more opportunity for the virus to replicate and gain dangerous mutations. Coronavirus could just be a few mutations away from evading existing COVID-19 vaccines. That will be driven into your head before we finish. According to the head of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, these vaccines operate really well in protecting us from severe disease and death, but the big concern is that the next variant that might emerge, just a few mutations potentially away, could possibly evade our vaccine. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky, I called her Rachel, I'm sorry. For some reason I've got Rachel stuck in my head. Wonder who from? Rochelle Walensky said in a Tuesday press briefing just yesterday when they were telling us about all the masks. She added, though, that right now, fortunately, we are not there since current COVID-19 vaccines operate really well in protecting us from severe disease and death, even though Pfizer's efficacy is going down. Yeah. Coronavirus cases fueled by the highly transmissible Delta variant have been surging in the U.S. and across the globe, largely among those who are unvaccinated in the last month. And see, that's not really true. It is very rampant in the vaccinated. They just are asymptomatic most of the time. So it's still there. In the last month, the U.S.'s 7-day average of new daily cases has quintupled from 11,887 on June 26 to 56,635 on Monday, which isn't bad, really. I mean, still, that's not high like it was. The CDC announced Tuesday that people infected with Delta, vaccinated or unvaccinated, have higher viral loads, meaning they carry greater amounts of virus compared to other versions of coronavirus. That means even vaccinated people could pass the virus along to others, similarly to how unvaccinated people do. So, yeah, we know that, and that's not good, and that's not making people want to get a vaccination, I guess. All viruses change over time as they replicate inside an infected host, so countless versions of the coronavirus are circulating, each separated by a handful of tiny changes in its genetic code. Many of these have no real public health impact, but the more people a virus infects, the more chances it has to mutate into a new dangerous variant. The biggest concern at the moment is just the sheer number of people that have the virus, and therefore the sheer number of variants that are being generated. Andrew Reed, who studies the evolution of infectious diseases at Pennsylvania State University, previously told Insider some of those might be the jackpot, which are even fitter than Delta. Yeah. But you know, it's not just us, it's all these countries. They don't even have vaccines. Well, you know, we could vaccinate. It's like we can totally change our energy system so we are not putting any carbon into the air. It's not going to change climate change, if it so exists at all. We could all be vaccinated. It's not going to stop Delta. Even Canada doesn't have the vaccine program that we have. Mexico surely doesn't. And as this story rolls right into what we're talking about, and the Delta can still change and mutate, and then that virus can come into the country that the vaccines can't touch. They're trying to put the blame on you if you haven't got a vaccination, like we're the ones creating the problem in the whole world. But there are so many unvaccinated in the world, it's not even close. Texas Police Department warns public after COVID-positive migrants released by Border Patrol into town. Yeah, not happy about that. Police actually went up and talked to them. A Texas border town police department is warning citizens of the potential danger posed by illegal immigrants infected with COVID-19 being released by Border Patrol agents and housed in local hotels. The La Jolla, I live in Texas, but I've never heard of the town, so I'm not sure. Police department issued a public health announcement on Facebook this week and explained that concerned citizens had witnessed a family group coughing and sneezing at a local Whataburger. And of course, that could have just been allergies here in Texas. Whataburger, a great little hamburger place that is in other places other than Texas, and coming to a state near you soon, I'm sure. Police said they were told by the group they had been released by Border Patrol into a local hotel. Okay, well, that's good, except you're sick. The officer approached the family and was told by them that they had been apprehended by Border Patrol days prior and were released because they were sick with COVID-19. Well, then what the heck you doing here eating in Whataburger? The Facebook post read, adding that they determined the family was being housed at a local hotel by a charity group. So, wow, that's helpful, huh? Officers made contact with hotel management who explained that Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley had booked all of the rooms in the hotel to house undocumented immigrants that were detained by the Border Patrol. The Post says the majority of the migrants held were not wearing masks and that border authorities are releasing migrants with coronavirus symptoms to local charities who were not notifying local police that sick people were being housed in the hotels. And you can't trust anybody, can you? Can't trust Catholic Charities. Who can you trust? Well, this lady, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, blames unvaccinated migrants for recent COVID spike. Part of the problem is the southern border is open and we've got 88 countries that are coming across the border and they don't have vaccines, she told reporters Tuesday. See, it's just what I was telling you. I should be a governor of a state. I know these things. U.S. elementary students fell 4 to 5 months behind during pandemic. Wow. If you have kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews in elementary schools, you already knew that. I believe this because we have gone in our lives from being very close to our grandkids, in proximity to, we're still close. But, sometimes we're across the country and when you can't get there, it helps to do FaceTime or what have you, but it makes you lonelier because you're used to it. See? Virtual contact was worse for older people than no contact, study finds. Yeah, so, because you get used to it, you miss them, but once you see them, man, then it's tough. As COVID-19 pandemic swept the globe in early 2020, people around the world found themselves confined to their homes and limited to speaking to friends and loved ones via phone or video chat. But rather than helping alleviate isolation, this virtual contact was more likely to result in older people feeling lonely, according to the results of a study published Monday. So, man, just nothing goes good when you start locking people in. Nothing usually goes good when you have this guy on the scene, John Kerry, our envoy, our climate change envoy to the world, to get the new American way in every country. So we won't just be responsible for destroying our economy, but the economy of the whole entire world. How you doing, John? Looking good as usual. A lot of this information isn't going to make John happy at all. This is a big part of our zero net carbon goals for 2030. Wind energy, especially offshore wind energy. Which just goes to show no matter what side of the energy equation you are on, we do everything offshore. Oil, wind, we're just a seagoing people, aren't we? U.S. offshore wind push set to fall short of Biden's 2030 goal. That's right. IHS Markit expects U.S. to miss Biden's target by 30%. Supply chain bottlenecks will limit construction, IHS Markit. The plan to rapidly scale up wind farms off the U.S. coast is set to miss President Joe Biden's 2030 goal by 30%. So, he wanted enough power out there to power 10 million U.S. homes. Well, what other countries' homes were you going to power, Joe? All right. We have, some major fires burning in the West. Major. The Dixie Fire, I don't know why they use such a racist name as Dixie, but the Dixie Fire is huge. There are many others, Little humid here today, so it's messing me up. We're paying the price for refusing controlled burns. A controlled burn, which firefighters will tell you there's really no such thing ever as a controlled burn. They can turn on you in a second. But nevertheless, a controlled burn is what we used to do in forest management. Trump mentioned it again when he was in office, as he should be, behind the desk that governs the world, we might say. He said we've got to go back to proper forest management, which many people have said, but environmentalists hate. They want natural growth. They don't want the touch of man in nature at all. They don't even want us going into nature. They want to leave it alone. They want your house to be left to nature. Of course, this goes against the biblical understanding that man was put here to take care of the earth. Yeah, take care of these problems. But who is saying this? The governor of Oregon. Terribly large and destructive wildfires in the West are now a summer ritual, and with it, the insistence that the fires are further evidence of climate change. Oh, hang on, we've got more to come on that. But the fires are also a consequence of bad forest management policies. Specifically, the long-time erroneous belief that humans should never clear out flammable underbrush and other potential fire fuel, that the controlled burns are destructive and always inherently bad. Thankfully, the long-standing conventional wisdom is rapidly eroding. Oregon's Democratic Governor Kate Brown said on Jake Tapper's program yesterday, it's incredibly important with climate change that we get into these forests and start doing the thinning and harvesting and prescriptive burning so that we can create healthier landscapes that are more resilient to wildfire. Resilient, the new word of choice for environmentally conscious people. Now, this is important because if I had time to go deep into the article, I mean, it used to work. We didn't have these blazing fires all of the time. There's always been drought. California has always been bad on rain. Oregon, usually good on rain. They haven't had as many fires, but they too stopped managing their forests. If you go to places like Boulder, Colorado, you find they do very little mowing or cutting back of trees or anything because they don't want to hurt nature. Even though within the city, nature was kind of put there by them or left anyway. It's a mess there. Just needs some trimming, and I love Boulder, Colorado. I love Colorado. It's a great state. Anyway, besides the rampant availability, not free of marijuana, and obviously marijuana-induced schizophrenia. But we regress. So everyone now says, oh, it's just all climate change. Well, that's not true. And a lot of it we have done to ourselves. Now, we mentioned the Dixie wildfire, and everyone in California has known that their utility company, PG&E, has, I think Pacific Gas and Electric, has not updated, and a lot of times fires are started just because the power lines overheat. But after years of fires, PG&E relents it will bury its power lines. Shares of California utility PG&E took a beating this past week, cratering 13% on Monday after the utility admitted in a regulatory filing that a blown power fuse might have ignited the Dixie Fire ravaging Northern California. Then on Wednesday, PG&E announced that it would spend billions to bury power lines, a step it previously had rejected as too expensive, and the shares fell another 1.8 to, what is that? $9 and something. I can't see because of the line in the photo there. But anyway, so what caused that? Climate change? No. A utility company that has not been kept up. They have not done their work, and lack of management and everything else. Even if you are a staunch believer in climate change and that the earth is getting warmer and we're all going to die, you got to see these fires aren't just starting naturally. And if they are starting naturally, there's things we can do to help them out. In the article, as I was saying, I got sidetracked by my own thoughts. No, I don't smoke pot. I'm not schizophrenic. Give me a break. The study showed that where controlled burns had been and everything was kept as clean as possible and you know, dead brush and everything cleaned out, burned out, etc., that as wildfires would come through, you know, now it's just all black. But in the areas where it was properly managed, the fire would start and the trees would be brown, but as you got further in the area, they were green because the fire ran out of quick available fuel. Some of that too is the thinning out of the trees so that fire can't just jump from tree to tree so easily. A lot of things that we used to know how to do. It's like we used to know how to get rid of mosquitoes. You know, we just keep losing it, but this man always loses it.
Come ride the little train that is rolling down the tracks to the junction. Forget about your cares, it is time to relax at the junction. Lots of curves, you bet, and even more when you get to the junction.
Petticoat Junction.
There's a little hotel called the Shady Rest at the junction.
Petticoat Junction.
It is run by Kate. Come and be her guest at the junction.
Petticoat Junction.
And that's Uncle Joe. He's a moving kind of slow at the junction. Petticoat Junction.
All right, you remember this. How could you forget? I won't let you. Back when Joe was talking about how he couldn't afford daycare back in 1972 after his wife died and I needed help. I was a senator making $42,000 a year. I could no longer afford daycare and someone to take care of my kids. And you could have hired a nanny for like not even $500 a month. Come on. 1972, the average income was around $7,100. We showed you average home price yesterday. Today, we're going to, oh, wait a minute, we have our song. 1972, they drove it up with sky blue. We have this little segment for you, the most expensive American cars of 1972. This was the car that everybody wanted, that had one of the cars that everybody wanted that had some money. The Lincoln Continental Mark IV had the little tire cut out on the back, you know, on the trunk and everything. Only $8,605. Unless you get the power sunroof, which would be $611 additional. Only $8,600. We also have the Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham, or as some would pronounce it, Brougham, but it was Brougham. only $75.69. $7,569. Again, power sunroof, $610. Okay. Are you getting the picture of that $42,000? It had a lot of buying power. Cadillac Fleetwood Eldorado convertible. Oh, a Cadillac Eldorado. You'd have to flip between that and the Mark IV. Those were the cars, especially a convertible. $74.95, most expensive option, automatic climate control, $523. Yep. Wow. How was Joe making it? Only making $42,000. Lincoln Continental sedan, in case you need a little more room than the Mark IV. $72.50, most expensive option. Again, power sunroof, $611. I'm thinking Joe could have got one of these if he left off the sunroof, maybe. Okay, what else do we have? Anything? Oh, one more. Cadillac Fleetwood Eldorado without the convertible top. It's only a two-door, and look how big that baby is. Base price $7,179, and the most expensive option, custom cabriolet sunroof, $1,005. Have the vinyl roof around it. So, wow. As opposed to all these things, average cost of a new home, $30,000. I mean, really, Joe, you couldn't afford daycare? Again, I can't find a price on daycare in 72. It couldn't have been more than $25 a week. Jeez, $42,000? My parents didn't make $7,100 in 72. I already told you our sad story. My dad's $1,000 a month job was knocked down to nothing. See, they just can't be honest. Why can't just say, we want to help people? We know people need help. Why not just say that? Huh? Why not? Oh, liars. Oh, yeah. Okay, we could do that. Why not? Did we do it the other day? No? Do we still have it? Yeah. Pants on fire. Biden proposes today in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, the Mack truck factory. Biden proposes Buy American rule for government procurements, which was already there under President Donald Trump. He's just strengthening it. But it's not always as easy as it sounds, as the good President Trump found out. Because let's say you have to buy some clothing and it has to be made in America. Well, it may be stitched together in America, but the material may not have come from America. It's like getting a Ford or GM car. Where do they come from? It's American owned, but was it made in America? Lots of problems there. He wants to boost it up to 75% or 77%. But of content, but it's tough. So some things you can't even get in the U.S., which is sad but true. Like you can't get an employee here. Sad but true. Biden said this yesterday as he was talking to the National Security Council group. If U.S. has real shooting war, it could be a result of cyber attacks. Well, that's comforting to know. President Joe Biden on Tuesday warned that if the United States ended up in a real shooting war, not opposed to the fake shooting wars we normally have, with a major power, it could be the result of a significant cyber attack on the country, highlighting what Washington sees as growing threats posed by Russia and China. Ted Cruz in a conference, a committee meeting with members of U.S. Trade Council, all kinds of people from the regime, asked them how come no sanctions were imposed on China. No one could answer because they hacked us back in March, the Microsoft Server Exchange hack, and nothing on China, everything on Russia. President Joe Biden on Tuesday warned that if the United States ended up in a real shooting war, all right. Cybersecurity has risen to the top of the agenda for the Biden administration after a series of high-profile attacks on entities such as network management companies, SolarWinds, the Colonial Pipeline Company, meat processing company, JBS, and software firm Kaseya, hurt the U.S. far beyond just the company's hack. And they leave off the Microsoft Exchange hack, which was probably larger than any of these. Some of the attacks affected fuel and food supplies in parts of the United States. Yes, they did. President Joe Biden warned on Tuesday that Russia is attempting to use disinformation to interfere in the 2022 U.S. midterm elections. They're already starting on it, folks. Russia's efforts are a clear violation of our sovereignty, Biden said in a speech at the office of the Director of National Intelligence, oxymoron deluxe there, in McLean, Virginia. He cited it as an example of the information he gleaned from his daily intelligence briefing earlier in the day as he thanked the intelligence community for its work. So basically, he's telling them things they already told him. Wow, what a speech. They must have been riveted. Oh, we didn't know that. Thanks, Joe. A very dangerous precedent. Democrats take aim at Biden's Somalia airstrikes. Yeah, because it's not enough that President Biden just interjected us into Somalia, a country we left because of lots of problems under Clinton, but he put us back in, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be there, maybe I don't know, but he did it under the authorization to go into Iraq, which we have been living off of for a long time. Congress wants to end it. I mean, it's over 20 years old and we're still using it. But the Biden regime is doing bombings in Somalia, and Congress doesn't like it. And so they are very concerned because it's like, you just keep doing what you want and you're supposed to be different. You're a Democrat. I mean, goodness sakes, Joe, don't you know it? Top Democratic lawmakers took aim this week at the Biden administration's recent airstrikes in Somalia, disputing the legal rationale for the operations and arguing that it undercuts the president's stated desire to replace outdated war authorizations. The Pentagon justified the strikes, which targeted al-Qaeda affiliates in the war-torn country, by invoking the 2001 authorization for the use of military force against the terrorist groups that attacked the U.S. on 9/11. Whatever is left of al-Qaeda, it is not that same group. I mean, and I know I'm a conservative. You know I'm a conservative. I am. But sometimes conservative issues can get a little blurred into the harsh reality of life. Presidents should not have the ability just to decide when and where our troops go. Now, once it has been decided between the executive and legislative branch that we should send troops, that we should fight, we should do that, then Congress should get out of the managing of it, and that should be left up to the executive. I think the Constitution makes that clear. But, you can't just, as a president, unless we are under direct attack, you can't just go do what you want all the time. Democrats, who have long maintained that the 2001 authorization is irrelevant 20 years after the U.S. invaded Afghanistan, said the Biden administration did not have the authority to strike in Somalia. What the Biden team doing is consistent with what we've seen now in 3 prior administrations. But it's, to me, inconsistent with the intent of Congress, said Senator Ben Cardin, Democrat from Maryland. a senior member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. I think President Joe Biden should submit a new authorization for the use of military force and should recognize that the 2001 AUMF authorization of military force should be terminated, he added. Well, why not? I mean, why can't you go get a new one? I'm on their side on this. It's just gone on too long, and we got to do something about this. I didn't like it when Bush even went and got it. Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat of Virginia, who has been working with the White House on a replacement for the 2001 AUMF that better aligns with the current terror threats, called on the Biden administration to brief Congress expeditiously on its counterterrorism goals and the current threats. There's good old Tim Kaine, whom I normally do not agree with. But sometimes even Democrats can get things right. I have received no information suggesting that these strikes are necessary to protect any U.S. personnel and would need to understand, if this is so, why they are occurring. Because why would we have military personnel in Somalia? Biden has backed efforts to repeal some war authorizations, such as the 2002 AUMF for Iraq, and replace others like the 2001 measure. Yet, like his predecessors, he has cited a range of legal justifications, including outdated war authorizations following military action. That includes twice invoking his Article 2 constitutional self-defense authority when he ordered airstrikes against Iran-backed militant groups in Iraq and Syria that attacked American troops. If you're taking strikes in Somalia, come to Congress and get an authorization for it. If you want to be involved in hostilities in Somalia for the next 5 years, come and explain why that's necessary, and come and get explicit authorization, added Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, another top Foreign Relations Committee member. This idea that that's too much trouble, that's too much to ask, is a very dangerous precedent for Congress to set. I agree. We have a Congress and an executive for reasons, to protect us, to protect our rights, to protect our young men and women. The criticism comes days after the Pentagon struck al-Shabaab in Somalia on Friday, marking the second such operation in less than a week, and the Biden administration's second in the country since taking office. In both cases, General Stephen Townsend, head of the U.S. Africa Command, not Biden, authorized the strike. The mission was conducted to support an American-trained Somali force known as the Danab after they came under fire from al-Shabaab militants in the Galmudug area of Somalia, defense officials said. Wow, that's al-Shabaab, el-Shabaab, however you say it, that's not even Al-Qaeda. Murphy said that, I realize they're connected, but this would be going on in Somalia anyway. Murphy said the strike approval process raised questions about the chain of command. Anytime you're taking strikes in countries that have no clear authorization for hostilities passed by Congress, the chief executive needs to be involved. The U.S. resumed operations in the country after a 6-month hiatus, despite new limits the Biden administration placed on drone strikes, outside active combat zones. While the Trump administration gave regional commanders broad authority to greenlight such operations, proposals for airstrikes are now generally routed through the White House. Prior to last week's actions, the U.S. had not conducted a strike in Somalia since January 19, the day before Biden took office. Biden's invocation of the 2001 AUMF comes as his administration is conferring with lawmakers about a replacement for that authorization, one that includes specific geographic designations, mandates a cutoff date, and name specific terrorist groups covered under the authorization of, usage of military force, AUMF. It illustrates that we need to come up with some sort of mechanism where we can approve geography. Senator Todd Young, Republican of Indiana, who has long advocated for war powers reform, said of the Somalia strikes, "We don't want to hamstring the president's Article 2 powers, which we don't have the power to do anyway." Exactly, it's constitutional. Not that that matters to most people. Cardin said, citing the 2001 AUMF, makes it more difficult to get a new authorization through Congress, adding it undercuts our ability to see an urgency for action. The Foreign Relations Committee has asked the Biden regime for more information about the airstrikes. Senator Bob Menendez, Democrat of New Jersey, very high ranking, who chairs the panel, said his main focus was on repealing the AUMFs that no longer have functional value. And they should be. Why are they there? But the committee is scheduled to hold a hearing next week with top State Department officials on AUMFs more broadly, allowing senators to question administration officials directly about the invocation of the 2001 AUMF as well as Biden's Article 2 powers. After that hearing, the committee will vote on bipartisan measures to repeal the 2002 and 1991 AUMFs, both of which authorize military force in Iraq for different conflicts. But the 2001 AUMF is still on lawmakers' minds as a future target. Well, if we're leaving Afghanistan, why is it there? It's just more evidence, and how come we had one on Iraq before Afghanistan? It's just more evidence of how badly the 2001 AUMF is in need of reform, Murphy said. I think the administration is struggling a little bit to find the legal authorization for these strikes. Pentagon spokesperson Cindy King declined to give additional details about the dual attacks, including why the Biden administration had conducted 2 in a row after a 6-month hiatus, citing operational security. But a defense official said the end of Somalia's rainy season has allowed operations to resume on both sides and anticipated a resumption of active fighting. So we're going to keep doing it because that's the thing. It's not raining now. So yeah, let's go and do all we want because we can, right? The defense official defended the airstrike, drawing a distinction between deliberate strikes against a particular threat developed in advance by military planners and close air support of self-defense operations based on an imminent threat. In the later cases, commanders must be able to authorize a strike quickly in life-threatening situations. All strikes go through a rigorous approval process, including assessments of civilian casualties and collateral damage, the official said. But the thing is, as just a military official, you are really not authorized to strike into foreign countries. That must come from civilian command and control. Republicans, see, I believe in the Constitution, ladies and gentlemen. We can't move it and mix it for our own benefit, which both sides do. I don't like that. Let's keep it right. Republicans defended and applauded the administration's airstrikes, as they have often done since Biden became president. On the issue of war powers, GOP lawmakers have generally backed expanded presidential authority to conduct military operations. I don't think the president needs a law passed by Congress in order to target terrorists who are posing a threat to the United States, no matter where they are in the world, said Senator Marco Rubio, the vice chair of Senate Intelligence Committee. Again, another oxymoron, especially if it's a one-off targeted engagement, not a full-scale military situation. Well, Marco, as usual, you're wrong. Wrong again. You should have to go to Congress. The Constitution requires it. I have so much more, but I thought that was really important because I don't think people talk about that enough. And Again, I feel the same. If Trump was in office, you can't just keep doing what you want. Okay, the military is supposed to be under civilian control. I do not agree with Democrats all the way as they go too far the other way. But you can't just say, oh, because first of all, Al-Shabaab isn't threatening us right now. I mean, come on. They're fighting other groups in Somalia. They can't even take over Somalia, which is okay. We couldn't take over Afghanistan. Not that we couldn't, but we wouldn't. But anyway, we need to know these things. And Biden, I mean, they're trying to make him out like he's this great guy. No, he's the same as all presidents. He gets caught up in the power of the office.
Say it ain't so, Joe.
Sorry, little guy, as usual. It's so. It's so. All right, we're at. Boy, I had so much more. I'm telling you, it just. Always something. What do you think, Charlie? That was a live presentation. He just barely hit that, didn't he? He had to kind of stretch it out. But we love you, Charlie, as we move into our highly anticipated part of the show every day, our God Formation time. That's right, where we get some inside information. A lot of people in the Biden regime don't even know because they think they actually know what they're doing. They are very upset with the turn of events from yesterday, from ending COVID to seeing it surge back. They were warned, but they didn't want to hear. Now they are struggling to get back the messaging, which Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre tried to do today, but I don't think successfully. But does she do any press briefing successfully? She's just bad. I mean, probably a nice person, but they want the med team to be more responsive to their political agenda and to be more on top of the situation. They are not happy. Dr. Walensky is in jeopardy. I'm telling you, her job is in jeopardy. They are expecting to recommend a third shot. But some fear the third is too much. Not all voices are sure. There is no one to make the decision because they don't have anyone authorized in the regime to do that, including the president. So he can't do it without authorization from higher up than him. Don't you love the way things are going in this country? Fauci is getting, it's just, I have a piece. It's very long on Tim Klain. Ron Klain, what's his name? Too many names. Ron Klain, the president's chief of staff. And wow, his power is even more than you would think you knew. But at the end, just talk about how everything's so wrong in the country, and yet they keep talking like it's right. Fauci is getting close to being out with the team. He is too smug and talks too much, but has very little actual data on his side, just knowing. He just knows because he's been around it so long, as he says. They, like Trump, want to get rid of him, but are afraid to because of the media fallout. You can't trust. This guy's all about himself. The economy is a big fear. They are letting Democrat governors know the economy must keep going. If you watch Netflix's Christmas movies with Kurt Russell as Santa Claus, we can make a play on it. The economy must endure. Anyway, if you didn't, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So they are telling them that they must keep the economy going. They do not want any form of shutdown. Schools will be their weakness as they need them open to get women back to work. Yeah, because more and more women, you know, if schools don't open, they can't go to work. Hurts the economy. Joe wants the schools open so that they do not have to take on the unions, the schools teacher unions. Plus, he is afraid of the Delta version due to his age and health. He wants to go out less until this dies down, but was told he can't hide due to public perception. Remember, and this wasn't just because of they didn't want him on the campaign trail, but remember, he stayed in during a large part of the campaign because of his age and the fear of the coronavirus. So now he's getting a little worried. And I guess he should, because he got his vaccination more than 6 months ago. So if it was Pfizer, Joe, you're not that protected. Stay inside. Matter of fact, don't even come out of your bedroom. The country wouldn't even notice, except you wouldn't be talking so much. Anyway, folks, I'm sorry I didn't get to more, but a lot of things to go over today that seem very important. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you for watching. I always sincerely mean that. You don't have to, and yet you do. Please share the program and pray for one another. Make your voice heard. That helps. Call a Democratic senator. Say, hey, get rid of these authorizations to use military force. Let's update that. I mean, it's something we can agree on. I will tell you quickly that I guess I should. They think they have reached agreement in the, what is it called? The infrastructure bill. We'll leave you with that. Key senators say infrastructure deal is reached on major issues. McConnell's still not happy with it because there's still nothing written out. It's just an agreement of the minds. And what kind of minds do we really have in Congress anyway? That's it. I'm out of here. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.